In a future metropolis, a little girl with pink hair is chased by an unknown menace. During her getaway, she receives a signal asking if she has obtained the key. She acknowledges her success. The protagonist's escape is cut short when robots with turrets injure her leg. Despite this, the girl uses her talent to become invisible, allowing her to avoid her attackers. When she reaches the exit, she delivers the key to a little robot that is eagerly awaiting her. One of the chasing robots attempts to strike, but is stopped by an intimidating mecha allied with the pink-haired female. This opportunity allows the girl to flee, so she rushes quickly. The robot unleashes rockets, wounding her and leading her to tumble off the bridge. Meanwhile, the protagonist, Shu Ama, is on his way to school by train. After his closest buddy greets him, Shu observes a large number of troops in the streets. According to press sources, a terrorist strike occurred the night before, resulting in a large military deployment in the city's center. Shu recalls an epidemic that occurred in Japan a decade ago, causing significant devastation to the country. Collaboration with other nations was necessary to solve the crisis, leaving Japan reliant on these countries to stay afloat. After class, Shu visits an abandoned house in a restricted part of the city. When he arrives, he is shocked to see the pink-haired female. The girl's fear of Shu prompts her robot to attack him, knocking him to the ground and spilling his meal. During this encounter, the girl attempts to hide from Shu. Suddenly, he notices her apparent hunger and gives her part of his meal. Shu recognizes the girl as a vocalist from a well-known band and attempts to engage her in conversation while they eat lunch. Inori instructs Shu to take her robot to a certain location in the city. While she is exhibiting him a yarn craft, a bunch of soldiers approach. After discovering the situation, the girl attempts to flee but is apprehended and severely assaulted by cops. Shu tries to stop the soldiers, but they accuse her of being guilty for the claimed terrorist attack. When the military threatens to shoot Shu, he chooses to hide. Shu feels powerless and unable to defend Inori as the military drags her away. Shu chooses to accompany the robot to the location requested by the girl, as shown on the map. In another scene, Inori is questioned in order to learn where the key is kept. When she refuses, the military sends its soldiers to find it. Shu travels to the robot's location, but is ambushed by robbers attempting to steal the robot. Despite being battered, Shu refuses to give in. Guy, a blonde lad with his henchmen, then approaches. Guy quickly overpowers the thieves, who flee. Guy questions Shu about the girl who took the robot. When Guy returns, he hears a tremendous explosion and learns that the military is approaching. We then watch military forces perpetrate atrocities, killing others in their route. After being assaulted by a mecha, Guy urges Shu to protect the key and rescue Inori. Inori is taken hostage in a trailer that flipped after being hit by a missile from a mecha. After releasing herself, Inori is halted by a group of mecha that are going to shoot her. Shu comes at the exact moment and rushes in to save her. The key activates, revealing a formidable weapon hidden within Inori. Shu uses this weapon to effortlessly parry mecha missiles and defeat foes with a single hit, demonstrating its potency. The military grows anxious and plans to dispatch additional robots to attack Shu. Shu successfully destroys hostile missiles but is thrown into a building as a result of the explosion. Guy intervenes in the scene, knocking down a neighboring structure and immobilizing the hostile mecha. Shu destroys it with the sword and goes to Inori's help. The sword returns to the girl after usage, and with Guy's aid, they escape. Guy's friendly mecha, headed by a young girl, is assaulted by an enemy robot. The mecha is led by Yen, the son of a high-ranking military officer, who presents himself to the squadron and tasked of capturing Inori. He expresses his desire to join the search squad and asserts his independence owing to his father's leadership. Despite the squad commander's objections, the military is obliged to permit his participation. Shu subsequently meets Guy and Inori on top of a building, where Guy reprimands Inori for failing to provide the key. After seeing the event, Shu defends her, claiming that she tried her best. Guy, on the other hand, points out that Inori made a mistake by giving Shu access to the key. The key, known as the Void Genome, is a potent biological weapon meant for Guy's use. The key he handed Shu is one of 3 and activates the power of a king, transforming a person's inner might into a weapon, similar to Inori's great sword. Following this information, Guy pushes Shu to join them in their confrontation with the military. A henchman informs Guy that Yan's troops has taken over a building and is holding over 100 hostages. Guy convenes the resistance and plans an attack on the building to release the captives in reaction to the news. During the expedition, Shu and Inori infiltrate through the ventilation system. When they arrived at the hostage location, they witnessed the troops brutally beating and mistreating innocent locals. Foreign soldiers mistreat civilians by pretending they are infected with a virus, allowing them to murder without fear of repercussions. As Yan and the military kill the abductees, the resistance begins an attack with hundreds of rockets. They divert Yan's attention by chasing a truck, then ambush the mission leader with rockets. The commander threatens Guy and the insurrection with detonating atomic bombs stored under the city. He consequently requests to talk directly to the rebel commander. When Guy arrives before the commander, he is asked to surrender and reveal the stolen key. Guy refuses, so the commander threatens him with hundreds of laser rifles. Shu is currently preparing for the next part of the strategy. Using the sword, he hits Yan to activate the key and summon his inner weapon, a gigantic cannon. The cannon activates when the commander strikes Guy, creating a formidable force barrier that repels laser shots. The lasers demolish the military's mechs and armaments, eliminating the opposing soldiers and liberating captives. Guy compliments Shu for his amazing job and invites him to join the insurrection, which Shu joyfully accepts. The next day, during his lessons, Shu reflects on the satisfaction of having rescued Inori. Suddenly, the teacher announces to the class the arrival of a new student, who turns out to be Inori. Upon noticing this, Shu is astonished. Then Shu's classmates respond in kind, as she is also an idol of great renown. They begin to ask her numerous questions, to the point where all the attention of the class is focused on her, except for Shu, who continues to question why she is present. Observing this, Shu's best friend, called Hiro, decides to intervene in order to put an end to the annoyance towards her. During physical education class, Shu's buddy, who considers himself Inori's biggest admirer, compliments her on her attractiveness in the sports outfit. Shu answers by saying that she appears nearly surreal. Hearing this, the youngster becomes enraged and insults Shu. When Shu returns home, he is unhappy with the circumstances. As he prepares to enter his home, Inori arrives and unlocks the door with her hand. Shu is taken aback by this and begins to question Inori's existence. Nonetheless, she continues on her way, disregarding him. Shu chases her, but comes across the girl's mechanical companion. When you enter the living room, see Inori peacefully change. Shu asks why she is at his house, to which she responds that the revolt permitted her to stay, implying she will now live with him. Senior military officers gather to discuss how to address the insurrection. Shu's mother, Haruka, is revealed to be an aide to one of the bosses. During the conference, she decided to send a fresh genetically engineered squadron to fight the insurrection. Shu feels confused about how to handle Inori's arrival with his mother when he returns home. Inori acknowledges Shu's anxiety and reassures him that she understands her mother's schedule and has everything organized. Unfortunately, the doorbell rings, and Shu rushes to open the door to see Yahiro. After noticing Shu's sadness after school, he suggests renting a movie and spending quality time together. Inori arrives and requests Shu's presence to deliver a vital message. Shu asks his buddy to postpone the film and departs, promising to explain the idol's presence at his house later. Shu challenges Guy about why he sent Inori to live with him when they meet. Guy reveals that it was a precautionary measure as one of those taken during the conflict happened to be a student at Shu's school. If this individual identifies him, he may report him to military troops. Due to the risk, Guy assigns them the responsibility of identifying the witness. Shu contends that his school has thousands of kids, making it impossible to identify the offender. Guy says they'll know if Shu utilizes the key to express his inner talent. During the combat, Inori's ability to see others' skills allowed him to observe their inner energies. The next day, Shu and Inori devise a scheme to learn each other's powers. Shu's attempt to use the key on a female fails, and he accidentally touches her breasts. Shu faced ridicule and criticism from students who witnessed the incident. Later, he and Inori developed speculations about why the key did not function. They believed that making eye contact with someone might help them unlock their inner abilities. Shu, who is bashful, finds support from Inori and resolves to try again, despite the difficulties. The next day, Shu takes Inori's counsel and tries again with a different companion. He successfully manifests his partner's inner force, resulting in a futuristic motorcycle. Unfortunately, it was not who they were searching for. Despite continuing their quest one after another, they remain unsuccessful. Shu becomes tired, and Inori informs him that they are searching for the power of someone manifested in a pair of scissors called voids. She explains that these artifacts are symbolic of each person's worries and complexes. Shu questions Inori about her emptiness being a sword, but is interrupted by the appearance of the girl whose chest Shu accidentally touched. Yohiro intervenes and saves Shu, allowing them to hide in the school gym. Shu and his pal identify Yohiro as the guy they're seeking for, despite his dread of scissors. When Yohiro confronts Shu, he strikes him, but Shu stops him by using his inner strength, a pair of scissors, to defend himself. After witnessing this, Inori considers killing Yohiro, but Shu intervenes. He says he doesn't want to lose his closest friend. Shu persuades Inori to reconsider her aim of eliminating the person who witnessed them. After a brief talk with Yohiro, they both agree to keep it a secret and inform Guy that the situation is improving. When Shu and Inori travel home by train, Inori expresses her wish to stay with Shu and learn more about friendship. The train abruptly comes to a halt, and Shu is confronted by armed troops. The doors open, and Yohiro, in an act of treachery, pushes Shu, who is caught by the military. Inori tries to stop the train to aid Shu, but is stopped by a rebel agent who claims Guy directed her not to intervene. Shu is then transported in a police truck to a jail at the military barracks. At the barracks, Makoto, a senior military commander, questions him about his relationship with Guy, whom he saw on the day of the fight. After Shu refuses to share information, Makoto takes him to another building to show him something. As they approach the barracks, they see extra security owing to Guy's threat to rescue his companion. Makoto discusses Shu Yohiro's actions throughout the war and the reasons for his treachery. Yohiro, who was involved in the drug trade for money, offered a payment for any member of the insurrection to turn Shu in. In a room with others affected with the apocalyptic virus, Yohiro confesses that one of them is his younger brother and that the therapy is costly. Makoto discusses the 10-year-old lost Christmas virus and how the military controlled it to prevent unrest. Makoto attempts to persuade Shu that the revolt is immoral, but Shu remains resolute owing to the military's savagery. Makoto tells that the resistance aims to assault to release an associate, Kenji, who has been detained for a suspected terrorist act. He gives Shu a transmitter and threatens to abduct Inori if he doesn't participate. He promises to alert them of Guy's whereabouts once he finds him. Inori regrets her inability to assist Shu and considers ways to save him. In another scene, Shu is led to a room to speak with his lawyer, who turns out to be Guy. Tsugumi, a rebel hacker, helps them disable all monitoring equipment in the room. Guy informs Shu that they need his assistance in rescuing a fellow rebel member that night. During a blackout, Shu must find Kenji and utilize his void to escape. Despite Shu's resistance, the revolt uses a blackout and explosives to confuse the soldiers and launch their plot. As the rebels assault the building with missiles, Guy persuades Shu to join the rescue effort. Guy is enraged when Inori informs Shu that she is on her way to rescue him, as these were not his instructions. Shu escapes to see Inori, but is stopped by a mecha. He is saved by the rebels' mecha, led by Ace, a mecha specialist. She reprimands him for causing Inori to ignore Guy's commands and threatens to kill him if anything occurs. Shu keeps attempting to get out of the building until he stumbles upon Guy and the child they were saving. Shu attacks Kenji by summoning his inner void, a weaponry capable of manipulating gravity. With it, he effortlessly defeats one of the mecha, but they are encircled by further robots. Shu uses the gun's full strength to create anti-gravity bubbles and approach Inori. When he reaches Inori, he unleashes the tremendous sword within her and destroys the military mecha. After leaving the area with Inori and Kenji, they meet Guy, who encourages them to join the resistance. Shu accepts, despite her reservations about him. Shu recalls the pen Makoto gave him, which enables him to notify the military of his presence with Guy as they approach the rebellion's hideout. He is afraid to use it, however, because he is still dubious of the rebellion's genuine objectives. When they arrive to a big library, they encounter Shibanji, a high-ranking officer in the insurrection, who reports that Inori and Kenji are well. Guy sends out a message outlining Shu's new role as the group's key expert and center of operations. The next operation is in 3 days, and Aiz has been assigned with training Shu. As the training begins, Shu finds Aiz holding the pen Makoto handed him. Despite his request for it back, she suggests a test. If Shu overcomes a series of obstacles in a week, she will return the pen to him. During the examinations, Shu comes upon Aiz practicing with a gun, and Inori teaches him how to shoot. Despite Inori's expertise, an embarrassing encounter between them prompts Aiz to label him a pervert. Makoto mentions the leukocyte weapon, which is the rebellion's primary aim in the next operation. Shu meets Arugo and Kao, members of the insurrection, and learns that Kao admires Guy much. Shu is astonished by the faith others place in Guy, despite their impression of him as greedy. After a long day of training, Shu decides to pay Inori a visit. During their talk, he asks Inori why she joined the resistance. Despite revealing that it was Guy's idea to claim her as his, Shu offers they leave the resistance together. Shu feels embarrassed when Inori refuses to enter a room with Guy, citing the uprising that rescued her. He departs feeling awful, but runs into Aiz, who understands what Shu saw. Aiz pushes him to excel in the next exam to find the truth and join the gang. To win the test, Shu must battle Aiz and his mecha, who are protecting the objective. He utilizes his ki to create a force barrier that immobilizes Aiz mecha. Shu passes the test and formally joins the resistance. The military's use of the leukocyte weapon to assault Guy and destroy part of the city dampens everyone's excitement. The weapon is revealed to be a powerful satellite hovering over Japan, capable of firing strong energy beams. Guy communicates with the group and claims to be unhurt. However, the rest of the squad is killed, and all supplies have been destroyed. Faced with this position, Guy decides to mount another attack on the armed troops. They set up camp in the attack region and organize an assault on the leukocyte base of operations. The primary goal is to get control of the weapon's power core, which is shielded by a force field. Touching this field would trigger a security mechanism that would lock the weapon. As a result, using Shu's strength and Kenji's gravity vacuum becomes vital. Guy cautions that the expedition is high risk and may result in several deaths. Shu recommends attempting the expedition alone, but his comrades disagree as they have already decided to join. Shu feels humiliated by this disagreement, so he exits the site. He then considers if he should use the pen to contact Makoto. Inori arrives and explains him of her plan, encouraging him to follow her instructions. Makoto then appears in a scene transition, speaking with the military commander. The commander warns him about the rebellion's planned strike later that day. So Yen and his squad are ready for the upcoming onslaught. Guy is recovering from a critical injury sustained during a recent attack. During his introspection, he considers the morality of his acts and if they were justified. He also explains that following Leukocyte's catastrophic strike, his partner, Kao, was badly injured. When faced with her impending death, Guy makes the tough decision to stop her misery. Shu comes suddenly, overhearing Guy's admissions. Shu confronts Guy, accusing him of selfishness and enabling others to sacrifice for him, particularly Inori. Guy's laughing enrages Shu, who assaults him. During the confrontation, Guy states that his purpose is to inspire others rather than control them. After hearing this, Shu reconsiders his thoughts and reconciles with Guy. Following these events, the base of operations is attacked, resulting in a successful diversion orchestrated by Aiz and the insurrection. This operation successfully diverts the focus of much of the military and Yan's men. In this scenario, Inori, Guy, Kenji, and Shu successfully penetrate the base and reach the control core. They plan to trigger Kenji's gravity weapon. Yen confronts him and strikes. Guy resolves to deal with him, and Shu proceeds with the plan. During a critical time, Yen fires wildly, inflicting significant damage to the satellite's core and propelling it towards Tokyo at tremendous speeds. Shu and his colleagues eventually escape from the base. Guy has an idea and asks Shu for the pen Makoto gave him. He is aware of his actual purpose. Makoto appears, and Guy offers to save the city in return for removing Shu's criminal record. Guy reveals to Shu that the feather is more than just a communication device, as it also activates another leukocyte satellite. When the second satellite detects the plume signal, it shoots at the exact place. Guy aims to use this technology to destroy the satellite that is headed towards Earth. However, the person in the path of the sacrificial satellite will perish. At this time, Guy offers to carry out the sacrifice. Shu feels powerless in the face of this predicament, unable to intervene. Shu is approached by Inori, who offers her nothingness in exchange for destroying the satellite. Shu employs a heavy cannon to unleash an energy beam, destroying the spacecraft. Makoto honors his pledge to remove Shu's criminal record, allowing him to attend high school. Despite this, Shu is being judged by his peers since he was arrested by the military. Arisa, the school president, defends Shu and convinces everyone that he was only interviewed. Shu expresses gratitude to Arisa for clarifying the matter as his classmates ask him questions. Later, Shu meets with her classmates to catch up on classwork. Shu is surprised to learn from his best buddy, Hare, that Yahiro has not returned to school since his arrest. Intrigued, he asks Inori whether she knows anything about his acquaintance. Inori's query of why he cares about Yahiro's treachery causes a difficult situation. Haruka gets home at that very moment, astonished to discover Inori there. Shu tries to explain Inori's presence, but Haruka calms the situation by sending Shu for a cake and discussing it with Inori over dinner. Guy meets with his crew, and Shibanji informs him that the rebellion's resources have significantly decreased due to the leukocyte strike. Guy decides to locate a resource-rich ally to support the revolt. In another line, we encounter Arisa, who comes from a well-known and rich family in the city. The family intends to host a party to identify a non-governmental group with whom to partner. The military commanders saw the attack on the party as a threat to their interests. Guy and Shu enter a ship on the high seas to convince Arisa's father to support the revolt. When Shu arrives at the party, he realizes that his mother is also present. After deciding to hide from her, he meets Arisa, who recognizes him and follows him for a conversation. However, Guy steps in and, after exchanging a few words, manages to capture Arisa's attention. Meanwhile, the military is preparing missiles to assault the ship. Shu is notified by his comrades that missiles are about to destroy the spacecraft. Shu chooses to report the threat to Guy, who is meeting with Arisa's father. They devise a strategy that involves using Arisa's vacuum to halt the missiles. Shu uses the key to create Arisa's void, which can generate energy shields, after Guy tricked her into going outside the ship. This intervention has halted all military missile launches. Arisa's father is amazed by Shu's prowess and agrees to join the revolt. Guy orchestrates a military strike and informs the military about the ship's party to establish an alliance. Guy falls in love with Arisa, which aids in the plan. In a later moment, Shu's mother receives an envelope with a photograph of Inori and Shu from their childhood. Shu and Inori both appear to have no recall of this moment. Shu plans a school vacation with the academy and jokes with her mother about not wanting to be alone. She then proposes that she take advantage of the vacation by seeing her father. Guy orchestrated the scheme, sending Shu, Inori, and other students to enter a military facility. Guy moves them into a mansion donated by one of his associates. In this setting, Suda, a critical mission partner with the essential qualifications to penetrate the enemy base, begins to pester Shu by hinting that he and Inori are a relationship since they live together. Shu tries to explain the problem, but Suda suggests they go to the beach, which they all agree on. Shu sets up an umbrella on the beach and expresses her discomfort with sharing a ride with Suda, who is irritating and impolite. However, his focus is diverted by the sight of Inori on the beach, sporting a stunning bikini. Shu feels drawn to her when he first sees her. Air, who has affections for Shu, observes she decides to lure him by asking him to swim together. Shibanji and others secretly monitor the young people from afar to ensure the mission's success. Afterwards, the girls return to the mansion and notice Shu and Suda's disappearance. Sutanon informs them that Shu has decided to go forward since he has some unfinished business. While taking shots on the beach, Suda observes a hat fluttering in front of him. The hat belonged to Ace, who was going by with Tsugumi. Suda admires Ace's beauty and thanks her before continuing on their path. Shu discovers his father's grave at a cemetery, where he formerly lived. After leaving flowers on the grave, Guy approaches the young man and starts a discussion. Guy reveals that he met Shu's father while he was a professor at a major institution and a pioneer in combating the catastrophic virus. Shu admits he doesn't know much about his father because he doesn't want to harm Haruka. He just knows Dad died 10 years ago on Christmas. Guy leads him to a cliff overlooking a military facility, revealing that he is there for a mission-related purpose. The task involves stealing a stone related to an apocalyptic virus, which requires Shu's might and his partner's emptiness. To persuade Suda to cooperate, Guy advises using Inori as a luring factor, as Suda is a fan of the girls' group. Despite Shu's annoyance, Guy believes that it is important for the operation to succeed. In another scenario, the girls enjoy a bath, and Hare is delighted to be on vacation with Shu. When Inori enters the bath, the girls are startled by her distinctive skin. Kanon becomes attracted by Inori's skin, while Hare feels envious of Shu's emotions for her. Shu is in the living room with Suda, and Suda inquires about his relationship with Inori. Shu tells him that there isn't, and Suda suggests attempting to date her. Shu views this as an opportunity to execute the goal and invites Inori to accompany Suda to the mission site. Inori accepts and is later seen wandering with Suda under the stars. As they relax, Suda shows her a film he prepared for Inori. Shu, hiding, observes all of this. After witnessing the film, Suda attempts to explain his love for Inori. Shu's jealousy leads him to use his ability to create a void while confessing his love for Inori. The rebellion members come out of hiding to ridicule Shu for prematurely bringing forth the void. They decide to start the task right away and head for a secret entry to the base. They obtain admission by using Suda's void, a camera that can open concealed openings. A strange individual comes at the facility, murders a guard, and enters with a card, triggering alarms and further security measures. Shu and the others continue to go forward, disabling the mechanisms with the vacuum. When they arrive to the chamber where they expected to find the stone, it is no longer present. Guy is enraged, so they decide to leave. The stone was seized by Kato, a high-ranking military leader. Following this, Kato visits Shu's father's grave to offer his respects. After regaining consciousness, Suda confronts Shu, who accuses him of failing to disclose his feelings for Inori. The two argue, but eventually reconcile their differences and become friends. The lads complete their assignment on the island and travel home by boat. Next, we see a hero fleeing with his brother and seeking safety in a chapel. Makoto and troops intervene, causing the hero to flee the scene. Kanon and Hare, who are in school, are left wondering about a hero's sudden departure. Shu enters while playing a video game and spills a teapot into the room by mistake. Hare feels concerned, since he has been thinking a lot about Shu recently. Kanon notices this and begs Shu for a favor: go purchase some goods with Hare. Kanon wants to spend time together, so they take the subway to go shopping. Hare mulls over how he may profess his love to Shu. The train abruptly stops, leading Hare to fall on Shu's chest. Embarrassed, the girl prepares to express her affections to him. Just then, a hooded Yohiro enters the train and stumbles, dropping some medication. Shu and Hare are stunned, and Shu immediately knows Yohiro. He decides to confront him, but Yohiro jokes about Hare and Shu's strong relationship. Shu invites Hare to go shopping alone as he has to discuss business with Yohiro. Yohiro leads Shu to his refuge with his brother and recounts their escape from the military base during the invasion. In the meantime, Makoto is keeping an eye on Shu and Yohiro, preparing to catch them. Yohiro later asks Shu for money to feed himself and continue his escape with his brother. Shu asks Ace to send a crew to fetch them up. Yohiro is startled that Shu wants to assist him after what he has done to him. Shu convinces him that he is doing it for his younger brother and prepares to exit the building. However, the lads are ambushed by Makoto's forces and attempt to run, but there is no escape. Shu attempts to approach them with Yohiro's vacuum, but the youngster refuses and accuses Shu of ratting them out. Shu is enraged and denies being a traitor, claiming that Yohiro is the only one responsible. He shouts at him, saying he promised to get his brother out and will follow his word. When Yohiro offers to give him his emptiness, he pulls out his revolver, which the brother misinterprets as an attack and falls off the stretcher. Yen emerges on his mecha and attacks Shu with hooks that follow the energy of the voids. Shu destroys one, but Yen launches other hooks, one of which hits Yohiro's sibling. Shu and Yen are surprised when Makoto explains that the boy's sickness emits the same energy as the voids. The infection quickly spreads to Yan's mecha, inflicting significant harm to both the robot and soldier. The sickness controls the robot, which then destroys the other mecha in the region. It then approaches Shu and the other boys' bodies. Shu prepares to protect himself, but the robot comes along and snatches Yohiro's body. When Shu notices this, he jumps to defend his pal. As he prepares to assault, he opens a doorway identical to the one he uses to remove voids from individuals. As a result, Shu is transferred to the memories of Yohiro's brother Jun. Jun arrives and shows the protagonist a flashback of his youth with Yohiro. Afterwards, he asks him to terminate his life since the sickness causes him a lot of pain and he's weary of bothering his brother. Shu makes the decision to murder Yohiro due to the sickness he is suffering from. When he returns to the robot, it rides and then turns off. The protagonist then departs the building, and Yohiro regains consciousness. When asked about Jun, Shu just responds that he is dead and that he murdered him. After a scene change, Shu discovers rebel members carrying out a task. Guy then directs Shu to attack using Inori's void. As he tries to fill the emptiness, he is reminded of the incident with Yohiro and Jun, which has left a lasting impact on him. Shu, who appears devastated, leaves rather than using his power, forcing the resistance to abandon their purpose. In the following episode, Shu has a dream about a girl with pink hair, similar to Inori, who is trapped in a burning building. In her dream, she asks Shu to pledge to make her sister happy. However, Shu awakens in his customary hiding location, revealing that it was all a dream. Checking his phone, he discovers multiple missed calls and texts from the resistance. Hare enters with breakfast and inquires about Shu's reason for hiding and refusal to go. Shu avoids the inquiries and then receives a call that he chooses to ignore. Inori calls to express her concern for him and to notify Guy about the situation. Guy is meeting with Eris's family to learn more about the stone he failed to steal. He hears that the military will shortly carry the stone via plane. Additionally, Kato was detained after delivering the stone to the military. Shu goes to school the next day, but memories of the trauma re-emerge and have a significant impact on him. This leads him to withdraw to his customary location. Aiz confronts him and encourages him to change his behavior. However, Guy enters unexpectedly and informs Aiz that his attempts are fruitless. Guy confronts Shu with a rifle, threatening to kill him if he doesn't help get the stone. Despite the threats, Shu refuses, stating that he has never coveted the power of the key. Guy threatens to kill him in order to get power. He shoots into the air to terrify him into joining the operation. Guy and Aiz resign from the insurrection after witnessing Shu's steadfast resistance, despite the fear of death. After these occurrences, Shu comes home and finds Inori waiting for him. He apologizes for ignoring her calls, but Inori comes over and gives him a song she created to cheer him up. Shu reacts aggressively when the girl approaches to offer him the music, triggered by another flashback. He strikes Inori's hand and smashes the music, describing her as a monster. Inori bursts into tears and leaves the house, saying farewell to Shu. Shu finds that Inori has prepared onigiri for him, albeit somewhat undercooked. Shu is moved to tears as a result of these gestures. Following these occurrences, the military squad prepares to move the stone. Yen, the appointed carrier, is awaiting delivery of the stone by his father, the general. While guarding the lift, Yen accidentally witnesses his father kissing his secretary. We next see how the rebels plan and prepare for their next raid to seize the stone. During the preparations, Guy undergoes therapy and meets Inori, who asks whether he believes she is a monster. Guy tells her not to listen to Shu's remarks and wonders whether she is also in love with him. We then observe Inori reflecting on her sentiments. Shu's mother reprimands Kato for taking the stone. During the interview, Kato shares details about Shu, including his link to the key and role in the revolt. The objective of this is to inform Shu's mother about Inori and question her trustworthiness. Back with the rebels, they launch an assault on the plane transporting the stone. The rebels take up key positions to complete the operation. At the same time, the general enters the chamber containing the stone. Meanwhile, the rebels move cautiously towards the plane. Makoto was informed of the rebels' impending strike and ordered the troops to inject themselves with a vaccination to prevent it. Despite this, Guy and his buddies reach the plane and use an explosive to breach the cockpit, only to discover no pilots. A sign confirms that they have been ensnared in a trap. Makoto activates a gadget, causing the stone positioned in the conference room to emit a weird purple energy. Shu and Hare approach the girl and beg for permission to be near her. He says he knows she is drawn to him. Hare slaps Shu and reprimands him for not using her as a substitute for Inori. She admits to him that she observed Shu's actions against Yohiro and his brother. Despite this, she tried to cheer him up, but he mistreated her. Shu attempts to apologize to Hare while she tears, but the sky suddenly darkens. The stone acted as a key, activating a tower and spreading the catastrophic virus. Guy, who was on board the plane and inside the tower's radio, was among those afflicted. Kendo, who instructed Makoto to act, orchestrated the entire operation. The rebels attempt to flee while under attack by the troops. However, Guy is seriously afflicted by the infection, and Inori attempts to assist him. Eventually, the military commander arrives at the location where the key was triggered, and the virus causes everyone to undergo transformation. Yoon arrives to his house to save his father, but finds him with his lover and resolves to kill him. Kendo takes over as the new general, and while a soldier attacks Makoto, Shu's mother escapes. Tsugami notifies Shu that the plan failed and that Guy and Inori are still at the airport. In this scenario, Shu decides to recruit the support of his colleagues to save the youngsters. He wants to use their vacuums to reach them, but Yahiro opposes, claiming he would simply use them as tools. Shu explains the power of the key to the other lads and seeks Hare's assistance, much to their surprise. Shu pulls the vacuum from Hare, revealing bandages with purported mending capabilities. Shu apologizes for using others' voids and asks for aid. The companions agree to join him. During a scene change, Kato uses the key to open a door and accompany Makoto inside. Guy and Inori, who met Haruka, intend to broadcast a song to prevent the virus from spreading. Meanwhile, the remaining rebels attempt to halt the military. Inori then begins to sing her song, which causes the virus to depart from the humans. At that point, Shu and his buddies arrive at the airport and are attacked. Shu utilizes Arisa's void to construct a barrier to defend the car they are in. After passing the initial obstacle, the military destroys part of the bridge. However, with Hare's assistance, they fix it and continue their progress. After destroying various robots, they eventually get to Inori. Yen unexpectedly strikes and overturns a mecha, trapping them. The hero grants Shu his emptiness, which he uses to vanquish Yen and reach Inori. Inori looks secure until a gateway forms behind him, revealing a blonde youngster named Yu who appears to have the key's ability as well. Yu attacks Shu with Inori's vacuum, but Guy blocks him and takes the damage. Yu's removal of Inori triggers the apocalyptic virus to reactivate itself with increased intensity. Guy urges Shu to pursue Yu, who intends to sacrifice Inori to resurrect mana. Shu enters the portal before it shuts, and Yu creates a trance that allows him to recall memories from his past. Shu recounts experiences from his youth with his sister, Mana. During the summer, they become good friends after noticing a kid drifting in the ocean and saving him. These recollections, however, were suppressed in Shu's mind. In the present, Shu finds himself in a hall with massive staircases. Kato explains that Inori is a body constructed by them to contain Mana's memories. Mana was the first to touch the apocalyptic stone and became infected with the virus. Kato claims Mana was chosen by an extraterrestrial race to form a new species after killing mankind. Mana's strong love for Shu prompted her to choose him as her mate. Shu, however, rejects her, causing the apocalyptic virus to spread and Mana's body to be destroyed. Now, Yu, the extraterrestrial emissary, intends to use Inori to house Mana's spirit and build a new planet. Shu tries to stop them, but Yu easily holds him back. Ace and Guy come and assist Ace and Makoto in reaching the ship. Guy survives. After defeating Ace, Guy tells the truth about the virus and unlocks Shu's painful memories. This unlocks the Monarch and Shu's full strength, allowing them to drain voids without causing unconsciousness. Shu removes the vacuum from Guy and fights Yu and the crystals to reach Inori. Guy uses a weapon to show Inori's sword, allowing Shu to liberate her body. Guy attempts to destroy the vessel carrying Mana's soul and stop the infection, but sustains serious injuries. Guy instructs Shu to use the sword to puncture him and destroy Mana as an act of sacrifice. Shu, first hesitant, eventually does so, murdering Guy and Mana's souls. Shu and Inori flee as the building collapses, but Shu weeps for Guy's death. The military sealed the virus-affected region, preventing anyone from leaving. The academy pupils, who mostly resided on the outskirts of the city, elected to stay. Ace, one of the students, attempts to pick up a Shu off the floor but falls from her chair. Ace, who is typically resistant to aid, declines 2 offers of assistance. Despite her objections, they persist in harassing Ace. Shu and Inori come by and see the scene, prompting Shu to protect Ace. Shu is intimidated by the harassers, but Tsugumi intervenes and kicks one of the youngsters, bringing him along. As more people watch, the bullies decide to retreat. Shu and the girls try to help Ace, but he refuses and tells them to go. On the way, Tsugumi remarks to Shu about Ace's emotional state following Guy's death. Shu explains that after the conflict, the rebellion disbanded, and Ace, Inori, and Tsugumi were merged among the students for safety. To address a teacher shortage at the institution, the president and Shu organized a committee to manage the refuge. To boost morale, Suda organizes a school festival in response to the students' discouragement caused by violence and vandalism. After some debate, they all agree that it is an excellent idea. Shu speaks with Yahiro, who shows him the emptiness and passes it over to him. Yahiro explains that after the struggle, Shu can extract the voids without making the individual faint. Shu expresses his desire to stop using the key's power, but Yahiro warns him that the military remains a threat. Following that, the two proceed to the location where the event is being prepared. On the way, they encounter Tsugumi, who works at his class's themed cafe. Tsugumi introduces them to Kanon, who has puppy dog ears. Shu visits Inori while Suda prepares for the festival's big concert. Following that, Yun is seen entering the students while donning a uniform. On his journey, he meets Tsugumi, who is carrying boxes filled with costumes. Tsugumi accidentally bumps with Yun, prompting him to become haughty. Tsugumi punishes him by making him carry boxes, then rewards him with a caramel apple. Yun assigns Makoto the responsibility of keeping a check on the rebellion members who are mostly present at the school. Tsugumi ensures Ice has a nice time during the student event, which is eagerly anticipated. Thugs have started conducting robberies since the quarantine began. These young men are outraged by the event arranged by the academy students. Makoto provides 2 criminals with a blind truck and mecha to assault the school after noticing Ice and Tsugumi's dilemma. The females argue because Tsugumi removed Ice from the mecha when she was assisting Guy. Ice reproaches her, saying that if she hadn't done that, Guy may still be alive. Following this battle, Tsugumi flees, leaving Ice alone. Shu comes just then and attempts to console her. The gangsters storm the festival, shooting and destroying everything in their route. Shu rushes to fire a volley at Ice, but she collapses off her chair. Despite this, Shu rushes to assist her and declares her willingness to fight. Despite her disabilities, she wishes to be useful. Shu's power awakens and draws out Ice emptiness, revealing cybernetic legs. Ice can fly and is quite strong thanks to his legs. He utilizes his new power to prevent the armored car from running over his hair, forcing it to crash instead. Tsugumi's robot helps catch the criminals. Shu utilizes Inori's vacuum and ice assistance to destroy the hostile mecha, ultimately defeating all gangsters. The students remained calm and enjoyed the event until Inori's concert. Ice expresses gratitude to Shu for allowing him to confront his feelings of emptiness, stating that it has made him feel better. During their conversation, contact is restored, and an official government communique emerges on the displays. It is delivered by General Kato, who survived the tower attack. He informs all of the kids that the government has authorized a new confinement plan. To contain the spread of the virus, huge barriers were built around Tokyo's central district, where students reside. Following these occurrences, all students attend a conference to discuss how to deal with the new barriers sealing off the core of Tokyo. However, terror overcomes the kids and causes widespread panic. As pupils begin to blame Arisa, she reassures them that her father would get them out of the issue. However, confidence in her has dwindled, prompting a proposal to elect a new student government president. During the meeting, student government members give viral vaccines to participants. Yohiro mentions Arisa's ongoing social media attacks, while Tsugumi believes the president is not doing enough to lead effectively. This comment sparks an altercation between Suda, who supports Arisa, and Tsugumi. The goons who disturbed Aiz plan their retribution, demonstrating their possession of a pistol and willingness to use it. When she returns to Tsugumi, she meets Inori for a talk. When asked if she feels lonely without her parents, Inori says she has never felt that way. Inori repeats the question to Tsugumi, who admits that she has grown up alone and is accustomed to it. However, she acknowledges that she misses the other members of the insurrection. Tsugumi then phones Shu, who had been listening in on the exchange. Tsugumi offers Shu a gadget he discovered during a struggle with the thugs. This instrument can determine the power level of people's voids. The guys begin to play with the gadget, comparing their respective power levels. Shu uses the equipment to check Tsugumi's void level, despite his lack of experience with it. The females begin to tease Tsugumi, and Shu pulls out his void. Meanwhile, Kato meets with Makoto to carry out his plan to destroy the rebels. He implements a new contingency plan that reduces the quarantine area every day. Those approaching the edge will be murdered by military-designed mecha. The merciless plot kills hundreds along the wall, and the mecha moves into the center, inciting terror among students upon hearing the news. Makoto offers relief from quarantine for anyone who surrender over rebel members. Shu is greatly disturbed by this announcement. Hei tells him that she would assist him in coping with his loneliness if needed. Shu considers running for academy president after the girl suggests it. Tsugumi, who had recovered from his emptiness, now joins the discourse. While conversing, the students notice several bullies tormenting a female. Thugs look for students who have a mark on their arm, indicating they are part of the uprising. Shu is alarmed by this circumstance since Inori and Aiz may be in danger, and he must act quickly. When he goes to seek for them, he discovers Inori defending herself from several boys who are attempting to touch her. Simultaneously, Aiz is apprehended by the goons who had previously abused her. Tsugumi arrives to save Aiz, but she is also captured by the bullies. The president summons the students to a conference in the academy hall to discuss the matter. Arisa tries to calm the students by dismissing reports about the rebels. However, the thugs arrive to corroborate the allegations. They portray Aiz and Tsugumi as prisoners, citing tattoos on the girl's arms as proof. Following the girl's resistance, the thugs point a pistol at Tsugumi. Shu sees the scene and chooses to interfere to defend her pals. Shu's ability to approach and stop bullies inspires pupils to obey him. Shu admits to being a rebel and warns that anyone who harms her pals will face consequences. He then suggests a way to resolve the disagreement. Shu, Aiz, and Tsugumi are taken to the edge of the wall and given up to the soldiers by a thug. Despite the thug's request for release, the military shoots Shu and the girls, followed by the thug. However, it turns out that it was all a hologram sent by Tsugumi's little robot. Shu used Tsugumi's vacuum to construct holographic clones of everyone. The clones were dispatched to demonstrate to the students that surrendering the rebels would not result in their release by the military. Despite the deceit, one of the guys attempts to assault Shu with a pistol. Shu responds by beating him with another student's vacuum. Shu encourages his other pupils to trust in themselves and vows to defend them with his might. Following this rally, Yahiro promotes Shu as school president, which the students enthusiastically embrace. Shu becomes the new student president, and Yahiro advises utilizing Tsugumi's technology to rank students based on their power level for greater management. However, this idea contradicts Shu's ideology, which seeks to make all students feel included. Shu views the rating of pupils as authoritarian, despite past exams identifying deficiencies. He aims to promote solidarity among pupils, particularly when the wall approaches the school, and has successfully kept them calm. Despite limited supplies and immunizations, Yahiro emphasizes the need of starting the sorting process now. This approach suggests preparing the strongest and most resilient professionals to tackle military challenges. Shu seeks advice from his friends on how to proceed, while Inori urges him to make the best option possible. Meanwhile, Aiz, Hair, and Tsugumi take a shower at the school bathrooms. Hair expresses his dissatisfaction that Shu must make such a significant choice alone. Aiz emphasizes Shu's duties as president, while Tsugumi urges Hair to proclaim her love to Shu. Suda approaches Shu and expresses his unhappiness with the proposed arrangement. Shu expresses his disapproval for the notion, and Suda advises him not to accept the student rankings. After the lads voice their ideas loudly, Shu informs the members of the student council about his choice. However, he finds that they are counting the virus vaccinations and believes that they are insufficient for all pupils. Yahiro begs Shu to adopt the rating, but Shu points out that Suda is in the lowest group. Shu eventually agrees to the ranking approach after being pressed by his classmates. While strolling through the halls, he meets Suda and a group of pupils who are at the bottom of the ranking. Students request Shu's permission to utilize their gaps for practice and academic purposes. Yun then speaks with Makoto over the phone. Makoto warns the pupils that their supplies are running low and they must prepare to approach the wall. Yun advises that the students are young and should not be afraid. Makoto criticizes him for not firing the suspected rebels who reached the wall the day before. He also cautions her that if she does not follow directions, rumors would spread. Following the call, Makoto is seen playing chess with Shibanji. Shu is hiding in his customary hiding place, and Hair chases him down to find him. Shu expresses disappointment at failing to meet expectations as president. Hair embraces him in warmth and urges him to follow his heart. He attempts to profess his love, but Cannon's call breaks the moment. Cannon notifies Shu that Suda and other pupils have left the institution to look for vaccinations at a local hospital. When Shu arrives at the hospital to stop them, the kids express their willingness to demonstrate their value to the school by receiving vaccinations. When military helicopters attack, Shu instructs the students to seek refuge in nearby buildings. While attempting to distract the troops, Hair starts healing an injured girl. Suda begs Hair to repair a neighboring automobile so they can leave, but this notifies the enemy mecha. Shu goes to help Hair, but they are both hurt by an explosion. The Nori and others arrive to assist, fighting the helicopters while avoiding missiles. Hair utilizes her void to heal Shu before losing it due to a bullet wound. Despite this, she successfully heals Shu before declaring her love for him and passing away. After waking up and recognizing the situation, Hair embraces her companion, but she transforms into crystal and disintegrates in his arms. Shu, overcome with despair and wrath, takes Inori's sword and kills each mecha one by one. When the others learn of Hair's death, they try to calm Shu down, but he hits Suda and blames him for the girl's death. A hero steps in to calm Shu, who thinks it's time to separate the weak from the strong. Argo and Agumo penetrate the quarantine zone using a chopper leased by Aerith's father. He intends to rescue his daughter and compel her to marry a government official to end the quarantine. Upon arriving, Argo sees Shu students stealing medication from another academy. The students see Argo's outfit as a symbol of rebellion and bring him to Shu, who becomes the school's dictator and leader. Shu ranks pupils based on their void power and recruits from other schools to build an empire at the former school. Argo meets Shu, who compels a female to give him her gaps for ranking and informs him that she is there to kidnap Aiz. Shu takes her to an abandoned ship that sank after a tragic event. Shu has collected military equipment from lower-ranking personnel on the ship. Despite seeming sick with the illness, those who successfully fulfill their tasks are rewarded with vaccinations. However, a problem emerges when one of the oxygen pumps feeding air to Suda at the bottom of the ship fails. Shu recognizes the urgency of the situation and chooses to assist Suda. If he wants to go, he must do so himself. Argo, unable to remain idle, rushes to the neighboring emergency pump. Shu threatens him with a scythe, claiming that they are plotting an escape from the quarantine zone and want all available resources. He reminds Argo that discrimination is essential owing to limited resources. He also admits that he cannot hand up Arisa since her emptiness is essential to the escape. Despite Argo's reluctance, Shu decides to confine him. Suda escapes the ship on his own, while Argo is imprisoned in a cell. After Hare's death, a Tsugumi robot informs Argo that Shu has established a void-based monarchy. The people dread him and follow him. Meanwhile, Yu, who appears to be alive, collects the rings he prepared to marry Mana. Commander Kato reports to Makoto and Shu's mother that the Academy's activities are proceeding as planned. He observes that Shu has managed to fill various voids in the institution. The former president attempts to speak with Argo, who was seeking for her, but is interrupted by a student who attempts to overtake her. Aiz responds by threatening him with a knife. Meanwhile, Shu stands next to Inori, who attempts to console him. Throughout the talk, Inori behaves oddly, as if she is not herself. Shu's attention is diverted when his comrades inform him of Argo's escape from his cell. Tsugumi helped Argo escape by giving her the key and neutralizing her eyes, preventing her from alerting others. Argo tries to leave with Arisa, but Shu stops him. A melee follows, and Argo easily defeats Shu. Yahiro threatens Argo with a rifle, but Shu's vacuum causes some beams to fall. When they hit a female, Shu jumps to save her and destroys her void, forcing her to become crystal and die. Shu realizes that if a person's emptiness is obliterated, they will die with it. Arisa flees the scene after seeing the incident. Shu disputes Yahiro's claim that hair loss was caused by a genetic weapon, citing the annihilation of his void as the true cause. With this understanding, the concept of a world of voids becomes exceedingly threatening. Yahiro claims that if he hadn't acted in this way, they would have all died, highlighting the need of continuing with the escape plan. Argo attempts to reason with Shu, but he assaults him to extract his emptiness. The former president attempts to flee from Shu and the others, but Inori intervenes unexpectedly. Inori strikes her with a crystal spear. Kato and the teacher help revive Guy. Shu visits a guard post where several pupils are not doing their responsibilities correctly. Shu threatens to destroy the voids, but Yahiro cautions him of the potential bad effects. Yahiro is concerned that the pupils may develop anger against Shu, but Shu feels this is the best way to enforce discipline. During the circumstance, Inori experiences a flashback and loses control, causing her to act without her will. Arisa is scared after the event and receives a phone call while in her room. During the call, she discusses the scenario at school with the person on the other end. However, Arisa is found by the bully who had been monitoring her. To address the matter, the girl flirts with the bully, gaining his favor and utilizing him to deliver a message to all kids. Shu's speech highlights the negative implications of eliminating the voids, leading some pupils to accuse her of deception. The world's main countries are meeting to address Japan's danger to global security. They conclude that intervention and action are required. Yahiro identifies Arisa as the major suspect in spreading the rumor. Arisa cautions Yahiro not to trust anyone, particularly Inori, and shares his experience with an assault by her. Inori tells Shu about the attack and how it has affected her personality. Shu pledges to always defend her, and Yahiro joins them. Yahiro notifies Shu about Inori's attack and calls for her trial and punishment. Shu defends Inori and accuses Yahiro of hiding information regarding the voids. Yahiro is demoted to the lowest level when he threatens Inori with her sword. Arisa encounters a gangster who offers sexual favors in exchange for knowledge on the quarantine escape plot. The boy describes the date, time, and precise location of the procedure. Arisa plans to utilize this knowledge to challenge Shu's leadership. So the day of the escape approaches, and the students proceed to one of the walls. However, it appears that whispers of a coup attempt have begun to spread among students. Kato is constantly monitoring the issue and appears to be devising actions against Shu. When Shu and his gang arrive at the intended attack spot, military mechs soon begin their pursuit. Shu orders an attack, with Arisa's apparent assistance. Despite his attempts, the mecha responds by firing indiscriminately, killing many students and disrupting the gathering. Shu uses Inori's vacuum to progress and defeat various mecha. The plan is to reach a control tower that oversees all of the mecha in the region. Shu faces numerous mechas before reaching the tower with a companion's void. Using a sword, he smashes the control center, deactivating all mechs and allowing the pupils to leave the quarantine area. After successfully escaping, the former president unleashes his plan, prompting the students to point weapons at Shu and shove Inori away to prevent her from intervening. Suda then knocks Shu into a crater and accuses him of exploiting them as tools. At this juncture, Inori attempts to flee towards Shu, but a void blade pierces her. As official patrons come, it is revealed that Guy has been revived by military troops and has undergone substantial changes. Guy approaches Shu, who is astonished by the discovery, and amputates his arm, which holds the power of the key. Guy then takes Shu's strength, leaving him stunned by what has happened. Later, world authorities decided to remove Japan to combat the virus problem. Consequently, they deployed fighter planes to destroy Tokyo with chemical weapons. Guy utilized the king's influence to unify the students and create a weapon that neutralized the warheads. However, the deed resulted in the destruction of the weapon and the loss of numerous pupils. Guy is attempting to contact with Eyes and others. He was no longer the same person they had known. Guy threatened them with death unless they joined him. Yahiro refused to support Guy and instead helped Sugumi and his comrades escape by destroying a neighboring mecha and confronting him directly. After Yen was destroyed by the other robots, Arisa protected Guy with her void and confessed that she was the one who gave information regarding the site of the students' attack. Yan's attention allowed Inori and Shu to escape. Guy destroyed government ships and released a global statement, threatening all nations with devastation via leukocyte satellites if they attempted another attack on Tokyo. The military forces then form a search squad to find Inori. Yu plans to exploit her to reconcile with Mona and marry Guy. However, Inori slips into hiding while looking for supplies to keep herself alive. Haruka admits she worked with the military to release her kid from the key's control. Later, Inori attempts to feed Shu, but he is greatly impacted by what has transpired. Arisa's military force locates Shu and Inori and prepares to assault them. However, armed men arrive in a limousine and shoot at them. Arisa intervenes to stop them when he spots his father in the car. The old man confronts Arisa for supporting Guy, claiming that the Guy she once loved no longer exists. He also confronts the soldiers, who clarify that their intended target is Inori, not Shu. After hearing this, the old guy attacks the soldiers with his katana, killing two. He then strikes Arisa, believing that her acts degrade the family. Arisa shoots and kills him before he can damage her. Inori tries to flee when she knows she is sought, but is surrounded by hooligans who attempt to capture her. When Inori sees this, she loses control again and murders the attackers. She approaches Shu and hugs him, but loses control and exhibits improper conduct. Shu tells her to stop, and she goes back to normal. Later, when she arrives, Inori had a vision in which she appears to see Mana. Mana's manipulation of Inori's conduct is revealed at this point. Mana tells Inori that she is ready to take possession of her body and plans to murder Shu as her first act. Inori walks away from Shu and offers him an emotional kiss after putting him to sleep to avoid his stopping her. Before surrendering to Arisa's soldiers, she activates Berserker mode and confronts the mecha. In the middle of the conflict, Inori focuses on her true feelings for Shu. Despite being made to contain Mana, she chooses to defend him with her life. Guy, however, captures her with an arrow, immobilizing her. Upon waking, Shu finds that Inori is gone and determines to do whatever he can to get her back. Haruka decides to stop Kato's ambitions by removing Mana, following the dramatic events with Guy and Shu. Upon arriving at Mana's location, she discovers her absence. At this point, Kato enters and admits that Mana was never present. Kato admits to killing Shu's father and shoots Haruka. Arisa is patrolling the area with her unit when Shu surprises her from behind. Shu pushes Arisa to divulge Inori's whereabouts, which triggers a communication through her phone. The communication informs the whole military that Shu's mother has fled and taken a high-security briefcase. Shu responds by pressuring Arisa to accompany him in his hunt for his mother. Arisa offers to divulge Guy's intentions if Shu tells him where Inori is. Haruka comes at Arisa's father's mansion, which is now managed by a lady named Kirichi after his death. Kirichi notifies Haruka of the elderly man's death. Haruka then relates her own narrative of escaping and attempting to halt Kato's plans, including the killing of Mana. Kirichi is surprised when Mana reveals herself to be his daughter. Haruka underlines that Shu is Mana's brother. Haruka reveals that Shu is not her biological son, but she became his stepmother after marrying his father. Despite their friendship, they always kept a certain distance. Makoto eventually locates Haruka's march and arrives with a crew to catch her. Initially, these individuals appear to be seeking vaccinations for the infection, lowering Karachi's guard. Makoto and his guards shoot fire on everyone, revealing the deception. Despite the ambush, Amogo rescues Haruka and instructs her to flee with Kirichi. As the two ladies depart, Amogo approaches Makoto and is murdered in the process. Despite the horrible tragedy, Haruka and Kirichi survive and seek aid from another group. On the way, Kirichi uncovers the stolen briefcase and queries Haruka about its contents. Haruka discloses that the bag contains a void genome, which holds the king's power. Argo notifies Ace's gang of Amogo's death. Haruka and Ace discuss the void genome and its potential for allergic reactions and self-destruction when utilized by an incompatible person. Haruka is hesitant to give it to Shu again to protect her kid from suffering more. However, the base is assaulted by Makoto-controlled mechas. Shu, who is on his way with Arisa, gets out of the car to aid his mother. During their escape, Ace recommends Haruka utilize her void DNA to halt the mecha. Makoto stops the procedure to explain his desire to control the void genome owing to his curiosity with its power. Ace attempts to collect the gadget, but Makoto stops him. After a sequence of events, Shu, against his mother's warnings, takes up the void genome. Despite opposition, Shu chooses to inject himself with the void gene to reclaim the king's reign. Shu's amputated right arm transforms into green veins, symbolizing his inner nothingness. With this new power, he can take viruses from humans and exploit them to their full potential. Shu uses his friend's voids to destroy the mechas and prevent Makoto from attempting to drive him over with a vehicle. Shu's new emptiness destroys Makoto's soul and cures Suda's condition, thereby ending the virus forever. Kato reports all that has transpired to Guy. Guy prioritizes the resurrection of Mana, who is controlling Inori's body in the military facility. Guy sends a global communique stating that he has chosen to exterminate mankind owing to recent attacks. In the message, he reveals the day on which his attacks will commence. Shu and the other militants plot plans to stop Guy. Shibanji joins them and explains Guy's plans to spread the catastrophic virus internationally and eliminate all life on the globe. He also offers Shu the diary that Guy gave him, which belonged to Shu's father. Guy sent the journal to Shu with the goal of disclosing the truth about his ancestor. Kato tells Guy how he met Shu's father, Karasu, during his undergraduate days. Kato was initially an antisocial guy, but his life transformed when he met Karasu, a strong supporter of his studies. As they worked together, they formed a strong relationship. Kato discovered Karasu with Shu's biological mother. When she became pregnant, they married and went to the location of the catastrophic rock fall. The rock, discovered by Mana, prompted Kato and Karasu to conduct collaborative research. Yu revealed his plan to wipe all humanity and build a new planet using Mana. Shu's mother was afflicted with the apocalyptic virus during pregnancy, and Mana picked her as his mate to repopulate the Earth. Yu let Shu survive till her mother passed away following delivery. Karasu resisted Yu's ambitions, while Yu attempted to get Kato to support his cause. Kato eventually assisted and began to work with Yu. The two performed trials on children to find the perfect match for Mana. One of these children, Guy, managed to escape and was later discovered by Mana and Shu by the shore. Haruka investigated Shu, documenting her relationship with the boy's father, Karasu. Haruka admired Karasu's devotion to virus research and developed feelings for him. Haruka eventually chose to marry and informed his older brother, Kato, who was opposed to the arrangement. Despite Kato's objections, Haruka stated that she would marry Karasu anyway. The scenario shifted on the day of the viral breakout. Haruka was at a church with Mana, waiting for Karasu. Meanwhile, Kato penetrated Karasu's office to learn the status of the virus research. He discovered Karasu's notebook, which explained the finding of the empty genome and how he stopped the virus. After a disagreement, Kato tried to get Karasu to join you and him, but he refused to disclose his discoveries. Kato became enraged and assassinated him, stealing his research. Shu has now completed his medical checks. Haruka cautions him about the hazards of ingesting the virus and that it may be too late to help Inori as Mana is now within her and will soon possess her entirely. Despite the warnings, Shu does not give up and decides to save Inori. Haruka tears and hugs him before learning that the chopper is set to take off. Shu tries to return the voids to his companions before departing, but Yahiro refuses, stating that they have already chosen to utilize them for the task. Shu sets out to rescue Inori and stop Guy after an emotional encounter with Suda. Guy prepares for a fight after learning the United Nations has dispatched an army against him. Shu and the others join the onslaught, and the plan to defeat Guy begins. As they prepare, Shu sees Aiz, who requests for his assistance in scaling his mecha. Shu aids her and compliments her attractiveness, making Aiz flush. During the conversation, Aiz asks Shu if he is willing to confront Guy. Shu expresses his willingness to do so and apologizes for using his null against him. Aiz informs him that he chose to give him the emptiness and hopes it will be useful to him. The invasion on the military facility starts with helicopters deploying mecha. Guy utilizes Arisa's voids to form a massive bow that fires energy arrows, killing a portion of the opposing fleet. Meanwhile, Shu and his squad successfully breach the facility. Tsugumi uses Haruka's hacking software to disrupt opposing mechanisms, resulting in army ships joining the combat. Shu uses Suda's vacuum and leaves the group to save Inori. Using Arisa's and others' voids, crystallizes Inori to emerge as Mana. Before losing consciousness, Inori thanks Shu for saving her and expresses her joy at meeting him. Guy questions the link between Shu and Inori, but explains that Shu taught her the world's beauty and grief, despite her own struggles. Despite being a conduit for Mana, Inori falls deeply in love with Shu. As Shu's crew hurries to reach Inori, the military regains control of the base. Inori is engulfed by the crystal while singing a familiar melody for Shu, who recognizes her and locates her place. Yu comes and confronts Shu, revealing his status as an extraterrestrial emissary tasked with creating a new world. He offers Shu the opportunity to join Mana in creating a new race, but Shu declines. Yu plans to destroy Shu by using his genomic strength to attack him with his minions' voids. Shu protects himself by avoiding and counterattacking with Yahiro's vacuum. Yen prevents the others from moving forward to rescue Shu. Shu proceeds to face Yu, who chastises him for refusing Mana. Shu defeats Yu but arrives too late to save Guy and Inori. The catastrophe begins when Guy completes the crystallization process and Mana resurfaces. Meanwhile, the Resistance gang is still trying to approach Shu. Aiz faces Yen and his upgraded mecha, while Tsugumi attempts to reclaim control of the base, but is thwarted by Kenji, who has sided with the military. Upon awakening, Mana hurries to Shu and expresses happiness at being rid of Inori, whom she thinks a monster. She grows to loathe her. Shu becomes outraged and shoves Mana to protect Inori, insisting she is not a monster. Mana was prepared to assault Shu after his rejection, but Guy intervened and said he would deal with him. Guy utilizes his DNA to extract the vacuum from Mana and alter the surroundings. Mana confronts Shu, reminding him that he would suffer the consequences for rejecting her. She executes a rite that deactivates the mecha and spreads the catastrophic virus worldwide. Guy declares the actual apocalypse of mankind when thousands of humans become crystals and die. He then assaults Shu with his sword, and Shu fights back with his own strength. Meanwhile, Yen violently attacks Aiz and the others. Argo uses a machine rifle to help Aiz escape, but Yan's mecha, powered by void energy, becomes infected with the catastrophic virus. Shu tries to reason with Guy, but Guy becomes bitter and accuses Shu of rejecting mana. Guy uses his sword to alert Shu, while Haruka threatens Kato with a revolver. In the struggle, Guy is ready to murder Shu, who considers giving up, but Inori's voice is heard through a crystal rose left behind. Inori urges Shu to continue battling and expresses her faith in him. Inori's flower connects with Shu, preventing Mana's strike and disabling Yan's mecha. Shibanji confronts and murders Kenji, allowing Tsugumi to reclaim power. Shu unleashes the full strength of Inori's blade, while Aiz and Tsugumi defeat Yan's mecha. Shu and Inori unite their powers to inflict a last blow on Guy. He is brought inside, where Shu encounters the real Guy. Guy wants Shu to save Inori and liberate Mana from Yu's grip by giving her his void genome. He has always loved Mana. When Shu returns, he discovers Inori, who has managed to control Mana. However, the apocalyptic virus has had a catastrophic impact on Inori. Shu uses the merger of the two genes to absorb the virus from the individuals, effectively eliminating them. The structure begins to crumble, forcing his buddies to escape. Shu continues to absorb the virus, ultimately becoming a crystal like Inori. In an unexpected twist, Shu experiences a vision where Inori gives him a scarlet thread that breaks his crystal and frees him. However, this leads Inori to vanish and the structure to fall, possibly taking Shu with it. Meanwhile, his pals lament not being able to assist him. 5 years later, Shu's buddies plan a dinner party. Surprisingly, Shu appears, seemingly undead but blind. In the last scene of Guilty Crown, he sits on a bench and listens to Inori's old tunes.